Alright, what's going on guys, and welcome back. So the last few weeks have been absolutely crazy for us monster taming enthusiasts, especially for me as the monster taming guy or whatever. The recent success of Palworld has been both a massive milestone for the monster taming genre, but also was not without its controversies, many of which has involved a lot of mudslinging from all corners of the internet, misinformation, downright lies, and so much more. I'm not going to come here today and give you guys my opinions on the legality of the Palworld designs, nor am I going to make any definitive statements regarding whether or not they copied or broke copyright or anything like that. Because, at least for me, until things are handled in a legal setting, I'm not interested in making claims that could leave me on the hook for defamation, nor should anyone watching this video make definitive statements that could negatively impact anyone if they're not 100% sure. That's not to say I actually think anybody would sue, but generally a good thing to live by is to not say something unless you're sure. Anyways, today I want to talk about something far more interesting for us, the monster taming community, that being the potential impact Palworld has as a whole with regards to the monster taming genre. Now, it's no secret that the boom in the genre was propelled by the Sword and Shield National Dex controversy, and then was perpetuated further by the early access release of Temtem. Say what you want about Temtem and its current state of affairs, but there were a ton of eyes on it, and for an indie studio, the game did pretty damn well, selling at least 1 million copies as of this time. This is nothing to scoff at, and has led to a lot more interest in the genre, with more devs feeling comfortable about developing titles in the space thanks to its success. This in many ways allowed for games like Monster Sanctuary, Coromon, Nexomon, Casepis, and others to exist and do well. We've seen Monster Rancher and Dragon Quest Monsters, game series that all but abandoned the Western market, return, and a number of other games like SMT5 and Monster Hunter Stories 2 sell record numbers for their respective series. Even Digimon has been taking video games a bit more seriously in the West, which is definitely good to see. Now, with all that in mind, Palworld has absolutely taken the internet by storm. This game has sold 8 million copies as of the time I'm putting this together, which is not even a week from launch, and has already overtaken total sales numbers for some of the lower selling Pokemon games. It's caused a major upswing in interest in monster taming games, but there have been two sides of this, which we will briefly discuss before I give a verdict on whether or not I think this game will be a good or bad thing for the genre. For starters, the game has put a lot of attention on the genre than probably ever before, breaking records for the most played paid game on Steam outside of PUBG when it was not free, and is even beating concurrent player numbers for other massive franchises like Call of Duty and Counter-Strike. There is no way that other studios, whether they be indies, AA, or AAA, are ignoring this. For those that say the game will fall off like Temtem did, you're right in the fact that every game eventually falls off a little bit, but you're wrong to assume that the figures that Temtem brought forth are even close to Palworld. Palworld had an all-time peak of just around 40,000 players in terms of those concurrent, while Palworld was reaching numbers around 1.5 million last time I checked, and might even be higher now. This isn't a slight against our friends at Crema, just basic numerical fact. The quote fall off that Palworld may or may not have will still have the game likely performing in the hundreds of thousands in terms of active players based on this size, and even with low ball estimates, I'm still going to say it's probably going to have a low-end concurrent player base that's much larger than the high-end we've seen with other monster taming games. Regardless of concurrent players, which isn't super important to the discussion, the point is that the game sold really well, and studios are going to want to capitalize on this. I could see this being really good for the genre and should stimulate a ton of new and unique ideas that will push it even further. Make no mistake, I don't expect random games to come out and sell more than Palworld, but what I will say is that if we are going to grow the genre, we need several hard-hitting games rather than just one or two complete and utter dominators. I'm hoping that the success of Palworld gets studios like Pearl Abyss to rethink their priorities regarding Doki V and Bandai Namco Digimon. I'm hoping that whatever Yokai Watch is doing with Ghostcraft brings forth their A game, and I want to see even more resources put into the next DQM and SMT games, and of course I want to see tons of innovation and high effort games to be brought forth. This could go many different ways. We could see games rise up that are going to try to copy Palworld and basically be Pokemon with guns but with more unique designs, or we could see people reinvent what it means to be a monster tamer altogether, like we've seen many times before. There are so many ways that monster taming can be incorporated into different fun and engaging genres that I look forward to immensely. Now, let's talk about the other side of this, the idea that Palworld could actually hurt the genre, and I'll discuss how that could potentially play out a little bit. This is something I've seen on Twitter and Discord, and there are a few different variations of this, but basically, because a lot of the designs are really similar to Pokemon, and because of all the drama surrounding Palworld and accusations of plagiarism, the theory is that this would lead people to attack other monster taming games and call them ripoffs ripoffs and clones and all that. Now, let me just say this is no different than what's happened in the last 4 years that I've been covering monster taming games. The mainstream game journalists and large content creators have been consistently calling every major monster taming game ripoffs, knockoffs, clones, the next Pokemon killer, etc. And anyone that tells you anything different is just gaslighting or is simply ignorant. You can go through my channel library if you don't believe me, and let me just say there are many more cases of people spreading this type of rhetoric than I've even covered because I don't like drama. Anyways, a lot of this isn't super important because I've definitely seen more and more people be essentially scared to throw around those knockoff and ripoff labels, as using them sort of muddies the water when it comes to discussing their arguments towards Palworld designs. There's no doubt that Palworld designs are far more similar to Pokemon than any previous monster taming games we've covered on the channel, and if you're trying to argue that Palworld is ripping off Pokemon and call games like Casepis or Coromon ripoffs, then it'll be hard for people to take your argument seriously. There's also been an upswing in sharing of other non-Palworld games across Twitter and other social media platforms from those that want to boycott or just can't play the game. And while I'm not part of the boycott crowd, I'm also glad that some people are sharing these games because they deserve a lot more attention than they've gotten thus far. All in all, I don't think Palworld will hurt the genre. I think its existence will act as a call to action for more monster taming game devs, and I think that it's already uplifting other games, even if it's because of this controversy. One thing I want to ask of you guys is to please not let this controversy turn you off from other monster taming games. I can easily see a situation where PAL fans shit on other games because their opposition is trying to prop them up, and that in no way is what the monster taming genre is all about. Let's use this opportunity to perpetuate even more monster taming growth, and while Palworld has made it big, I'd love to see even more games make it into the mainstream and for our community to grow even further. It's awesome that Palworld's selling 8 million copies in a week, but honestly, if we had even just a few monster taming games, especially from the indie side of things, sell like 2 to 3 million lifetime copies, that would also be really good for the genre as well. If you're interested in joining us on this quest to expand the monster taming genre further, definitely subscribe to this channel because I put out monster taming videos every single day. You can also check out my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, and channel memberships linked below if that interests you. And special thanks to my supporters, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Candy Morency, and TragSoft, and we'll see you next time. Peace.